Meeting is a meeting of the school board in public for the purpose of conducting school corporation business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There will be time for public participation as indicated by the agenda. The meeting site is fully accessible. Any person requiring further assistance or accommodation should contact the superintendent at the school corporation central office. I will now call the meeting to order. We will begin with a moment of silence and the pledge. I know we have some students here this evening. If you don't mind, we'd love for you to lead the pledge. If you want to come forward. Don't be shy. That's good.
No.
We'll all stand up. Don't worry. I will say before we begin, sorry, I'm going to speak into my microphone. We begin with a moment of silence, and we did lose two members of our community in the last couple of weeks. Kathy Renner, who is a school employee, our director of food service, as well as George Anderson. Boy, George is hard to encapsulate into just a couple of sentences, but he was a Lebanon grad. His kids are employees, grandkids employees, just a tiger through and through, so he will be missed.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, we do have everyone present, so we do have a quorum. Mission statement, Mrs. Hutchison.
Lebanon Community School Corporation will cultivate and reach every student by influencing and enriching their lives through the power of education, and will do so in a positive and safe learning environment.
Okay, thank you. Item 2 is actually a separate hearing within our meeting, so I will call that hearing to order about a lease agreement and additional appropriations. Mr. Dennis.
So good evening to the board, and we have officially reached the end of our bond issuing season, and I know this has been a furious last few months here with the issuance of both general obligation debt and then now lease rental debt in association with our referendum bonds that were passed in May of 23. And so the GO bond is to be sold, it's closed on Thursday of this week, but this is our final night of action for our capital referendum bonds associated with the referendum that was passed this past May. And so we do actually have two hearings in one here. I've been assured by legal counsel that we can do that. We have a hearing that is a hearing on the lease agreement that is a part of issuing these bonds. And as a reminder, there are two types of debt that schools can enter into in Indiana. General obligation debt, we here at Lebanon are limited to just over $15 million. And that is clearly not enough to do some of the construction projects that we have to do. And in cases such as that, the mechanism shifts from general obligation debt over to what is known as lease rental debt. And so essentially what has happened earlier this evening is Mr. Franson has formed a building corporation. They actually were in existence from a while ago, quite frankly, when the middle school was renovated. But they will continue on this deal as well, and essentially what the building corporation will do is purchase Perry Worth Elementary School building and the land where our new elementary school will be placed. They will issue bonds on our behalf, and then we will pay them rent, essentially, then to utilize the buildings further. And so this hearing then, initially for the lease, is to first give any member of the public to comment on whether the lease rental contained in the lease agreement is, quote, fair and reasonable, is the language in the statute. And so, Ms. Keith, I will hand it over to you to receive any public comment, should there be any.
Okay. We do not have anyone signed in to speak this evening on any topics, but if there is someone who wanted to speak on this, you're welcome to come forward now. Okay. We will call that no comments from the public.
In case there is a potential comment on one additional item, this is also an additional appropriation hearing where we will appropriate the funds that we will receive as a result of the bond sale for utilization on the project. So assuming there would be no comment on that either, but probably would like to turn it over one last time.
All right, so we will open that up also for any public comment from anyone. Okay, thank you. No comments.
All right. With that being said, there are 5 items of action as a result of these 2 hearings. The first of which is Exhibit A in your packet, and that is the resolution authorizing execution of the lease agreement. And so, as required by the school leasing statute, we here at the lease hearing must approve, the school board that is, must approve the lease and authorize the officers to execute the agreement. This agreement is the agreement whereby the school corporation will levy property tax to, in fact, make the lease payments to essentially allow the school board or the building corporation to pay back the bonds that they're issuing. These lease payments will be paid to the building corporation and used to pay the bondholders, and it is this lease, in fact, that the bondholders must have as assurance that the building corporation will pay or repay the bonds. So, in effect, this lease is the mechanism by which we then can levy property tax to make these payments. So, respectfully ask for your approval of the resolution authorizing the execution of the lease agreement.
Okay, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the execution of lease agreement as outlined by Mr. Dennis and Exhibit A in your board packet.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Second one's a little simpler. The second one is outlined as Exhibit B in your packet, and this is the additional appropriation resolution. This resolution allows us to appropriate the funding, and also it does state that we will place these funds in an account separate from our operating account, effectively setting up a construction account to make payments for the projects.
Okay. Board, I would like a motion to approve Exhibit B, the additional appropriation resolution, as described by Mr. Dennis. Second?
Second.
Questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All right. Exhibit C will be the resolution reapproving the building corporation. In order for the building corporation to sell bonds, being a not-for-profit corporation, the school board is required by the IRS to approve this building corporation as well as authorize it to issue tax-exempt bonds.
All right. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the resolution reapproving the formation of a building corporation. Exhibit C in your background notes, please. Okay. Second? Questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
All right. Exhibit D in your packet is the resolution assigning construction bids and contracts to the building corporation as we receive them. So, of course, to make these improvements to our buildings, we will be soliciting bid from contractors and then obviously entering into contracts with the winning bidder. So the school corporation will own the Perry Worth Elementary School building as well as the land where the new elementary school will be built. The building corporation will be the issuer of the bonds, and the bond proceeds will be held by the trustee bank and will be used to pay the contractors for that work. As a result, the construction bids and contracts will need to be with the building corporation because the building corporation will hold the money to pay the contractors. So as the school corporation receives the bids or contracts and awards the bids or contracts under state law, but then we will assign those to the building corporation.
Very good. Board, I'd like a motion to approve Exhibit D, the resolution assigning construction bids and contracts once received to the building corporation.
I'll motion.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Questions on that? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
And the final exhibit, Exhibit E, is the resolution approving the sixth supplement to the Master Continuing Disclosure Undertaking and issuing bonds. So this is a compliance issue. The Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, requires that school corporation enter into a sixth supplement to Master Continuing Disclosure Undertaking before it issues bonds. The school corporation has previously entered into this type of agreement, and this agreement requires the school corporation to timely provide financial data to what's known as the Emma database that the SEC administers, and to provide notice of any material change to those.
Okay. Board, I would like a motion to approve Exhibit E, resolution approving a sixth supplement to Master Continuing Disclosure Undertaking.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Anything else on that, Mr. Dennis? Okay. And I will adjourn that portion of the police hearing, and we will return to our regular meeting. Thank you very much. All right, item E, or 3, approval of minutes for the October 18th regular meeting. Like a motion to approve those, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
Questions or comments on those? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, number 4, superintendent announcements and celebrations.
Thank you, Mrs. Keith. Thank you all for your patience through the bond hearing. My friends in the front row, you had the same look I had on my face when the attorneys were trying to explain all of that to me. And I'm still not sure I understand it all, so from time to time, he has to go slow for me sometimes. So thank you for your patience as we work through some of that minutia this evening. But the short version of it is, this is how we get nice things.
Build
Okay?
stuff.
That's the short version for you this evening. For my announcements this evening, I'd first like to take a moment and congratulate our own Jen Totterud, Director of Communications. She was recently featured in a Parent Square publication, and we've all been making that transition as parents and staff members, and the work that Ms. Totterud has done was recognized by them and was one in one of their recent publications, and showcased her branding work that she's done within our district in communication with our community. So I wanted to make sure I recognized her efforts this evening and hard work. About the time we had our board meeting last month in October, the high school was in the middle of their mandatory testing of juniors and seniors on, I'm sorry, sophomores and juniors now, help me Mr. O'Rourke, for PSAT. And Ms. Scott and the counseling office here at the high school and high school administration organized a college and career fair for all of the students to participate in during that time of the mandatory testing. We had upperclassmen sessions from some of our community members that came in to talk to our students about things like establishing and maintaining personal credit, how to successfully interview for jobs. One of the sessions was, now you have the job, now what? Right? Some things like that are just employability and life skills that the students were able to participate in. And if you saw some of the photos, I believe I shared with the board some of the photos of that. We had the gymnasium and hallways full of colleges and universities, as well as trade schools and skilled trades, showing all of our students the possibilities that they have to look forward to after graduation. So I wanted to take a moment to congratulate our high school for their hard work on establishing that college and career fair. Last two things are very brief. Just a reminder that our high school fine arts department will be having their production of Grease this weekend. I have to head north to my dad's this weekend, so I'm going to sneak into the dress rehearsal Thursday night, but the official performances are Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, so look forward to seeing that this week and encourage everyone to attend and give them your support. And the final thing is to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving in the coming week. And I know we're all looking forward to that, some fun, family, food, and football, right, in the upcoming week. So that's it for my announcements.
Okay, thank you. All right, item 5, board recognitions, Tiger Pride Awards, Mrs. Kristen Scott.
Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to come back for the 22-23 school year to recognize students in 5th, 8th, and 12th grade that were nominated by their school buildings as Tiger Pride champions. And as a reminder, those are the students that are demonstrating persistence, respectfulness, initiative, dependability, and efficiency in and outside of the classroom. And so we're excited to honor them tonight. We'll begin by recognizing Miss Jada Stitch, and Jada could not be with us this evening, but communicated her absence, as she would as a Tiger Pride candidate, and let us know that she was not able to come due to work. So I do still want to honor her, and I'm going to read what Mr. O'Rourke and his staff shared. So they shared that Jada is an exceptional student at the high school and exemplifies all aspects of pride through her interactions with her peers and the high school staff. Academically, Jada demonstrates pride through her 4.1 weighted GPA while taking a rigorous academic schedule. She consistently demonstrates persistence and initiative in the classroom and is always respectful, kind, and encouraging to her peers. Her respectfulness and dependability while representing the high school and the community is recognized and appreciated. In all that she does, Jada embodies the ideals of pride as a true servant leader in our school and community. And we'd like to congratulate Jada for exemplifying what it means to be a true Tiger Pride champion. So congratulations to Jada. Next up from the high school, we have with us this evening Ben Wascom, if he'll join us up here, please. LHS is very proud to recognize Ben as one of the Tiger Pride champions. They shared that Ben is an exceptional young man that exemplifies all aspects of pride in all that he does. He is a very goal-oriented young man who pushes himself to reach his immense potential through an unwavering commitment to the characteristics exhibited in pride. While Ben has a great deal of natural ability, he also has a great work ethic. He has high expectations for himself academically and personally through his character. Ben is a young man with great character, integrity, and compassion for others. He always treats others with genuine kindness and respect. He is respectful and considerate to those that he encounters and has represented the community with great pride. Congratulations, Ben. Hopefully he got the math problem solved too, that when we were visiting in the classroom that they were working on. Next up from the Lebanon Middle School, the SWAG team is excited to recognize Jackson Peterson. The SWAG team shared that Jackson exemplifies what it means to be a Tiger Pride champion. He demonstrates persistence by always doing his best in the classroom and asks questions if he needs clarification. Jackson is always respectful to the teachers and staff at the middle school as well as his fellow peers. He is dependable. Teachers can rely on him to be a leader. Even though he might be a quiet one, he still leads by example, doing his best and completing his work and being kind to everyone. The middle school is proud to recognize Jackson Peterson as the SWAG Tiger Pride champion. Now on to our 5th grade students at our elementaries. First up from Central, we have Troy Burnick. The Central team was excited to share that Troy shines brightly as Central's Tiger Pride champion. He moved here from Perry Worth just 3 short months ago and hasn't missed a beat. With only just knowing a few boys from sports, he has been a respectful friend to all and has adjusted so well. During his Student Lighthouse interview last month, he told his interviewee that all the habits were exactly what he had been missing from his life. Troy has been introduced to each of the 7 habits and has already started living them in his daily life. He displays great sportsmanship and thinks win-win in and out of the classroom. He is both proactive and dependable. Anyone who knows Troy knows that they can count on him. He is very responsible and extremely efficient. In fact, he always turns in all of his work on time. Troy has the initiative and drive to do anything he sets his mind to. So we all know one day we will all see him on the news, your next future meteorologist. Congratulations, Troy. From Harney, we have McKinley Williams. Mrs. Parker shared that McKinley is a perfect example of what it means to have pride at Harney. Kinley had a rough start to the school year because of medical issues that forced her to miss some days. But because of her determination and perseverance to succeed, she earned all A's and 1 B for the first quarter. She worked hard to complete her work. Kinley still continues to struggle, but you would never know it since she always has a smile on her face and kindness in her heart. Kinley continues to lead her class and other 5th graders at Harney as a Harney Impact Ambassador and Student Council representative, both for a second year in a row. This year, Kinley has also taken on the additional role of morning announcer. She's a role model for others and has a positive outlook. She shows integrity in her decision-making, often encouraging others to do the right thing. We're proud to have Kinley Williams not only represent our class, but also all of Harney as our Tiger Pride champion. And from Hatteby Stokes, we have Kylie Hoffman. Mr. Allen shared that Kylie is a bright spot in the class daily in the classroom, coming in every morning with a good attitude and readiness to learn and help others grow. Not only good grades and academic strength qualify Ms. Kaufman to be a Tiger Pride champion, but also she is a leader in the classroom. It's her perseverance, her ability to push through difficult tasks, her ability to think through tricky situations and come out of struggles with this success and new knowledge. Every day, she leads by example. We are proud to recognize Kylie as our Tiger Pride champion for November. As I shared with the parents, the information shared earlier this evening will also be on the website for parents to access along with the pictures. So thank you.
Congratulations to all of you, and thank you for coming tonight. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the board meeting, of course, but we do have a lengthy agenda. I see some getting up already. So we will pause for a moment. If you would please just be quiet as you leave. We can hear conversations in the hallway, so thanks again for coming, and congratulations on all your hard work.
It is riveting.
It is. Yeah, there's actually some really good information coming, but you know. All right, we will go ahead and move on to our informational items. We have a school construction and renovation update from Gibraltar and Meyer Najum, who are here this evening. So we will turn that
I
over
think
to
Gibraltar's
you.
up first.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you again. Chris Kingery from Gibraltar Design and Jim Thompson also. We're going to be tag teaming the presentation this evening. I almost interjected and said if there's ever a night for them to stay, tonight probably they would have been pretty excited to see what we're going to be covering
At
tonight.
least one more item.
Yeah. And then that excitement probably would be similar to what we were able to see today with the principals. So you think of 2 years of having a conversation about programming in elementary and having that consistency and conversation about what's working well in their building, and then also planning for the future. And then designing those spaces for functional criteria, what will happen in each of those spaces. So I think you know the journey that we've had in the conversations. Today was a first look for the opportunity for the principals to see it. And then tonight you'll get the opportunity as well to see all of that work applied to a floor plan for the future of the elementary programming in Lebanon schools. And so tonight's version is a shorter version, but I want you to know that there is Tonight's version is a shorter version, but there is a much longer version that you're going to have access to if you would like to have a deeper dive into learning about vertical unit ventilators and
No, thanks.
not interested in that.
Not even me. Not even
But
me.
also some other items that we have, details that we've worked through to create some solutions and some options. And tonight's culminating display that we're going to be able to share with you will be the solutions from all of those options that we've worked through. So you will have access to that. Can we do a drum roll?
I'm glad Chad's doing it. There's no pressure on me or anything right now. Did it come through?
I'm driving.
Okay.
Oh.
Don't make me pull this car over. Big enough for everybody? See if I can.
So as he's pulling that up, I also want to say, in addition to in between the meetings with the principals and meeting with staff and getting input, I want to thank Dr. Millman and Mr. Dennis and Meyer Najum for their time, because all those in between meetings, every week they were committed to us bringing more ideas, more solutions, more options to be able to work through. So thank you for that time that you have committed.
Hopefully this will work.
That
Let's
will-
go to the good stuff. We've seen all this. We know what neighborhoods, we know about capacity.
I would reference that. You've seen that before, but that is the program that we applied to each of the spaces. The next slide is just a placeholder, all the equipment and the planning and furniture for those spaces to make sure that it's going to work for each of the schools. And then if we jump to the next slide, we're going to see how this applies to Harney Elementary. Jim?
Thank you, Dr. Millman, and members of the board. Nice to see you. Gaining ground every month. I
We're
love it.
excited.
So, two site plans have developed as very viable options for Harney Elementary School. The big rocks, if you will, the big items are separating buses and cars and managing the car riders. So, the bus solution is fairly straightforward. The one that we are recommending with the administrative team, you can see, is coming off of Garfield and diagonally parking the buses in a safe manner, provide them a turnaround loop. What we like about this also is it's close to what you'll see in the building plan as the littlest learners. That might be the bus riders. In addition, now we are able to use the current parking lot that's on the east side for the main office. So now if you're a parent needing to drop off medicine in the morning or do something after school when the buses are trying to queue up, we can separate that effectively. And we get to reuse what's already there. So anytime we can take what the site's already giving us or the building's already giving us and save you those dollars and put them somewhere else into the classrooms or onto the next item that's important, those are wins. With the encouragement of the city, this option shows that the car rider lanes could possibly be another lane to Boy Avenue and Camp Street. So think of that as like if there are no car riders queued up, it could just be street parking for events or for things going on in the neighborhood, using the grounds as a park. But at the times when the school needs it, morning and evening, we could do a lane that then would allow cars to queue up. We need to get them through the intersection, which is what the bottom right shows. And in the preliminary meeting with the city, they were open to that conversation. The next option, and you can interrupt us anytime, but since it's a board meeting, you probably want us to keep moving. But I'm not at all offended if you want me to back up. Okay.
No, are you adding a lane on Camp Street?
Yes.
Like,
Well, in the terms of Camp Street, essentially what we're doing is extending the lane that was there for the buses.
Correct.
So we're extending it from about the middle, right above the word camp,
yeah, where it jumps
to the
off.
west. And then Hoy Street, yes, we are adding a lane.
There's a utility station there on the corner. This shows
Avoiding
of
that.
If it's not does exist in these type of projects. If we have another option, we can also discuss.
So this option shows extending the parking lot and providing additional parking spaces and then using the parking lot for the car rider queue. Both get nearly or essentially adequate car rider queue. If you think about it too, most of that traffic is going to be the waiting after school that gets lined up and backing up. During the day, morning time, be busy, but it'll keep moving and be more random. This is going to need to be a balance between a sea of asphalt and eliminated green space. But you'll see on the lower right, we also do want to have some hard surface play and some soft play. So in the process of reinventing that, my guess is it might be a balance. Maybe it's not Camp Street, maybe it's Hoy Avenue, and a little bit of parking. So that's why we have just two good viable options, and keep vetting it until we arrive at a conclusion. And we would want to coordinate closely with the city.
Yeah, I would assume that you'd have to detain any, for all the additional impervious there, that parking lot, you'd have to add detention on site.
We're really hoping for a good conversation with the city about what their plans are as well, because they mentioned Garfield. And so if the city cannot assist, then yes, we will have to either use large pipes underground, and preserve green space, or create a detention area. There is a swale on the Hoy Avenue, but it's not going to detain nearly as much asphalt drainage as going to happen. So the Harney will have a more challenging stormwater management solution.
Okay, we're going to move to the floor plan. If you, today, even though the meeting was with all of the principals, when it was on the principal of that school, I loved looking at their faces. We were walking through this, and they could see this come alive, and they could picture themselves walking into that front main entry. And so we made sure that everything was applied. We have 5 sections of kindergarten classrooms and 4 sections of every other grade level, and then 2 flex classes in case there, some to have opportunity to grow within the school with enrollment. If you have a bubble class that ends up having to have 5 sections. We have right-sized for all of resource and special ed services at Harney. And some of the features that we were very excited about this, and Dr. Dye was as well, is that right now, if you've been in Harney, kindergarten is in the back. And so with this arrangement, we're able to bring kindergarten up to the front. I said very close to you and close to your heart, and she smiled. But having that kindergarten also very close to the bus drop-off, where 70% of the kids that are riding bus are kindergartners. 70% of the kindergarten population rides the bus, and just to be able to walk right through the door and walk into their classroom, it's going to be a perfect arrangement. And then as you go around to some of the newer, the STEM space taking over the existing office. And so as you come into that front main entry, to be able to see the activity happening at that STEM space, which is right across from where the media center would be, so you could see how those 2 spaces could play together. And then as you wrap around, adding square footage and capacity to the current cafeteria, so that as the building were to grow, that there is plenty of space for students, and you'll see a little bit more about that later. And then also the new square footage, new addition that you would see at Harney would be the new gym. And so the way that we did this is we looked at every single gym and its capacity across all of the elementary schools to see what was the outlier. The current Harney gym was the outlier. And so for us to be able to give them a gym that's very similar to Perry Worth was the ultimate goal. We like where it is on the site because it allows for evening use, and you can close it off the rest of the building, and you could have multiple functions happening there at one time on site, which is very exciting as well. If you go to the next slide, it goes into a little bit more detail about what do we do with the old gym. Jim's going to explain how we are maximizing that space, and I'll probably add on.
So the top left illustration, the color represents the gym box existing. So that's the rectangular shape of the existing gym. Essentially, it can manage 4 classroom spaces. So we're going to put 4th grade, which is the way the grade levels matriculate to the building. And then the center gray and yellow is additional space needed for the building and functions. So we're going to capture that space. Remember my square foot tile. We don't want to waste any square foot at any school. And so then up high, which is what we're showing on the bottom picture. So the bottom picture, if I were to slice the gym building, pull it apart, When we looked inside, that would be like the inside. Top line is the roof of the gym. The gray area is the space between the ceiling and the roof. On the right and on the left, you can see two rooms that are white. Those are the classrooms. And then the blue lines or green are the roof. So above the roof, we'll put windows. They're called clear story windows. It's a technique that's not unfamiliar to Harney. If you can remember the art room and I think the music room, each use this technique, clear story windows above the roof. We like that far better than skylights. We're using what the building's already giving us, which is a big box, which is above the roof, so we can put in the clear story windows. The daylight then, you can see, can trickle in from above down into the classrooms. So it gets natural light into the floor plan top left, into those 4 rooms. So it can be a very natural function. Probably when we're all done, there'll be some sort of daylight control, motorized shades, something simple that can operate with. Will, I think, be a win-win-win across best use of budget, best use of square footage on the roof, take advantage of what the building gives us, and create 4 nice rooms. And it is similar to what the building has already experienced in the art and music.
The next slide shows a little bit of an understanding of what those clear story windows would look like. Oh, sorry, it's not in this one. It's in the, that's in the more expanded version that you would have access to.
Yeah, they're making a couple edits to the expanded version, and you'll kind of get to see a 3D model of what it looks like inside the classroom with those windows. I predict that these will be desirable classrooms, even though they may not have the large windows facing out. There'll be a section of the classroom that will have this high ceiling and I think just the right amount of natural light. They're going to be a really neat learning space, I think.
We plan for the arrangement of the classroom entrances to be located across from the rest of the grade level. So those 2 4th grade classrooms, if Dr. Dye determines that's where 4th grade would be directly across from the other 2 4th grade classrooms. Then on the other side, that flex classroom would open to 1st and 2nd grade, so you would have that ability if the 1st grade is a big group and you need a flex classroom, it's also close to 1st grade. If it's 2nd grade, it's close to 2nd grade. If we go to the next slide, it goes in a deeper dive into what that office, we went through in detail what the office programming would look like. We looked at how they are using their spaces today. Also made a list of all the additional services that are happening from Inwell to Cummins to school psychologists to all the other support that students have, and wanted to make sure that it's an office that services them now, but also in the future if they were to expand. So every office has a similar footprint with similar square footage. So you have a great main lobby entrance. You also go into a 12-person conference room that's right off that main lobby as you come into the office. Principal's office, assistant principal's office, and then 2 flex offices. If you can, imagine 5 years down the road, you wouldn't want to have someone who would be a part of the office be moved somewhere else because there wasn't space for them. Next slide, just want to have a placeholder to be able to know that we plan every single cafeteria that no matter what type of tables would fit, that there would be enough seating to accommodate the growth that would happen at Harney. She would be able to have 2 grade levels at one time in the cafeteria from a service standpoint to a seating capacity. Where we capture that additional square footage is going into the existing stage area. And then just want to give a closer look to understand what will happen with the gym. It'll be able, the bleacher capacity would be 400. An additional 350 students would be able to sit on the floor. And so you would be able to have your entire school community and more inside that space. And then new group restrooms right outside so that you would be able to have access to that even if the building is closed down in the evening.
So one of the other things, if you remember, as we identified priorities for the schools, Harney was in need of better heating, ventilation, air conditioning, HVAC. So this illustration and photograph was in an effort to kind of share with anyone, how does this really work and can we be certain it's going to work? So what you see in red is new construction, which will be when the room is renovated, added to the building's systems. The vertical portion is what's called a vertical unit ventilator. It's about the size of a furnace, maybe a little bigger. In the rooms right now is a horizontal unit, makes lots of noise, and all the teachers know, yeah, that's really annoying and it's really old. So that goes out. What comes in is a new modern vertical unit ventilator. They last a long time. They're easy for maintenance staff to maintain, availability of parts, and they will handle the heating and cooling, and also important, fresh air, and even more important, dehumidification for the room. The way we disperse the air, unlike the unit ventilator, which is just blowing it out on top, is we run ductwork in between the joists and above the ceiling, and we can drop in 4 diffusers, which are no different than what you see here, go to this ceiling to disperse air evenly in the classroom. So it will draw the outside air, and then we use 4 pipes, hydronic piping, to supply heat, supply return, supply cold, supply cold return. So that's the way the system will work. In the next slide, because probably most of the teachers and staff want to know, well, what's it going to look like? Left is an old room. A lot of us went to school in rooms like that. And on the right is a new refreshed classroom with the white top left being the vertical unit ventilator. Very quiet, very pleasing, and appreciated. And they have a nice price point, cost effective too. So just to conclude on Harney, a couple of ideas that have percolated and we want to capture. What you can see in the lower left is an illustration that shows we think we can capture some additional windows up above the existing windows. Really good suggestion, because as the cafeteria gets deeper and the stage is going away when we put more seating, windows up high can allow the natural light to get a little deeper into the room, which would be nice for the children. The exterior starts to show how that might look. It's just, you can see sets of windows above the current windows mimicking. Very easy to construct. And then these last 2 illustrations, or last 3 illustrations, just start to show the massing of boxes that are additions in gray, and then the existing condition. And we'll work with scale and materials, and we want it to look like it was always meant to be there, but it'll also be new, modern, and fresh looking. And here's the way to think about how the new main entrance and main office can happen. And it's nice when functional needs can match building refresh or exterior appearance. And this might start to show you how things will look different from Garfield and Camp Street if you were just doing a drive-by. So I think I get us started on Perryworth Elementary School site plan. Again, feel free to interrupt. So one of the things I really appreciate with Chris Kingery coming from elementary ed and being our chief education officer, and John, Zach, working with educators, is as you talk, right solutions start to percolate and come to the top. So with Perryworth, something you might not have seen before is the lower left separate bus loading and unloading. But in talking about where parking might be and talking about the massive improvement development in that area of the county, or the city now, annex, we think it's prudent to plan for this additional separate bus loading and unloading zone. And you can see in the far left, a new curb cut. By the way, the pink dots are the new utility transmission lines going through the property. And then you can see the addition is to the left. But really important at the top, very top right, is an intentional new entry drive for car riders. And we anticipate a lot of car riders, kind of been the trend there at Perryworth Elementary. So very comfortable and lengthy drive, double stack. When they get close to the building, they can, if we need to, we can have them wind through the parking lot for even more loading, stacking of cars after school. We don't like schools to be locked in, so we like to have options for how traffic patterns can work or change if they need to. And then for safety and security, we want several entry points for first responders to get onto the site in an appropriate way. So you can see how the car rider's been handled. We've got a plan for separate buses. That'll be a big relief to relieve the congestion out in front of the building. Again, similar to Harney, if you're a parent, you need to drop off medicine, you can get in, get out, and keep going, and you're not congested with buses. So I think for everyone involved, it'll be helpful. This building's helped too because the gymnasium is somewhat towards the front, easily accessible. So the bus, what we anticipate is the bus loading and unloading for events can be parking. So that could help with the need for parking at Perry Worth.
So with the new bus lot, it doesn't look like it cuts into the existing playground. Is that true? It sits.
Yeah, right now we're trying to guard against that, but we probably will want to reshape and rethink and imagine
Yeah.
playgrounds anyway.
If you notice, I was going to mention while we're on the site
Set.
plan to give you kind of an aerial drone view of this shaded area is new construction,
That's
new
okay.
and new. So while the bus lot does not carve into it necessarily, the new construction
Building
does.
does.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then the red could be a future addition down the road if we needed to go above this current project, and there'll be some neat pictures about that here in this presentation as well. This is a nice aerial of footprint of the building as well to show you how that works. So yeah, we're gonna have to re-engineer the play spaces a little bit. Yeah.
So for those of us that appreciate the devil in the details with civil engineering, Mr. Parks, one of the wins here is you had already access to easy stormwater management and drainage. So we're hoping to determine, and I think the city may even want to have an ask there because of their road improvements. So we're just going to be good neighbors and trying to work it all out. What are the win-wins for everybody? But I think that's one of the things we're doing with the stormwater.
And where this is a win for arrival and dismissal, because that's my brain, and being out there with Dr. Millman one morning, and you see support staff coming in and parking and walking across. You see parents parking, walking across with their child, and 10 buses going by all at the exact same time, the exact same parking lot. So I think moving the playground is going to be, an adjustment to that's going to be worthwhile to what it will do for arrival and dismissal. So if we look at this floor plan, you can see when we were master planning Perry Worth, it is for the project that we have ahead of us, but also we want to have an end in mind. If Perry Worth were need to grow in the future, we want to master plan towards that as well. So if you were to have to grow at that school to 700 plus, you would only have to add classrooms. You wouldn't have to do anything to the cafeteria, to the kitchen, to the core areas of the building, because it would be able to handle that. Same thing was applied, 5 kindergarten classrooms. What's different about Perry Worth is 2 pre-K classrooms that we're planning for to be at that site. In addition to that, 5 kindergarten, 4 at every single grade level, and then still being able to apply 2 flex classrooms for future growth as well. And if you can see the white area, we just always want to have a placeholder to know if you were to have to add one more section of every grade level, that's where we see it happening, and it would be able to connect the building. Amber and I had talked through that this afternoon as well, about the excitement of the connectivity versus the end corridors that would happen in this design. You can also see, the expansion of the kitchen, new kitchen, and then expansion of the current cafeteria. I think you're well aware that they're eating in the gymnasium right now just as a spillover space.
I continually remind folks when I share with them this picture that this rectangle above my cursor is the kitchen.
Mhm.
And then this is the new kitchen. Substantially different in size and function from what they're currently experiencing. So,
Question. So the addition of the 4 white rooms that are there on the left, there looks like there's a dotted line and that's a hallway on the opposite side. Would that not be to continue the full, could you not build in the hallway now? I'm just saying because of what you mentioned, the point of it being, you're not running at the end of the corridor, it's continuing on. I mean, that just was.
I see your point. Right now, though, it's still going to connect, think of the 1st and 2nd grade wing. Those are going to be connected with the new construction. The 4th and 5th grade wing that's on the north end of the building is going to be connected currently with the new construction as well. But that will be a connection point that will almost think of as like a 465.
Full
on the
loop.
outside. Yeah. A double loop, I guess, to be able to get to those spaces as well.
So the cost benefit, I think, could you build a corridor only, knowing then that you'd add classrooms later? Just to clarify, if the drawing is confusing, so the kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade, that is a loop, even though there's a line across that white space, that is a loop that circles back. So going straight would simply connect kindergarten to 5th grade. So a little bit of dialogue that we can follow up with the principal and say, where is that value? Because is building the corridor only is an additional cost, and the only benefit it's going to provide at the moment to the building's expanded classrooms is the kindergarten to fifth grade. But the loop still exists. So you turn where the kindergarten is, you go back to the right, then you come out there. That's the loop. So the connectivity still exists in a healthy way. And then the same loop for I would call upper elementary, upper grade levels exists.
So this is all new as well? Just
Even though there's that red line
That red
across
line
there, it is a
showed
loop.
what's new
What's new.
construction.
Yeah.
Right.
The other thing about this building, that the renderings illustrations will show you here in a moment is because it's a slope roof. That's going to make the corridor construction even more premium to pay. But we can certainly go back and dialogue with the principal and say, is there a value there and the structural and the cost benefit of that?
Yeah. But yeah, that's a good point. These thick red lines is new construction, but imagine that's not there. This is all still a loop. Anything where there's white, it's a pedestrian.
There are some nice spaces at Perry Worth that are working for them now and will work for them even with this addition. So we are capitalizing on that, and there's even some finishes that have been added to that building as well that we want to recognize, some investments that will carry forward as well. Want to show a little bit more understanding about the corridor, because currently, if you know that end, you go to the end of that hallway and it's a dead end corridor. They have student storage that's in the very middle of it, and in our conversations, we know that we're going to have to come up with a different solution because now that's going to be a passable hallway. And so, in meeting with the principal, we'll continue those conversations. It's how are we going to get that student storage through lockers on those exterior walls in the middle of those corridors.
Could be something like that, something like that.
And then this is again a close-up of the Perry Worth office. Great square footage, but had to do some solutions. Right now, currently, they had the smallest teacher's lounge in the entire elementary of all the schools, but also the largest enrollment. And so it was not quite working for them. So where we were able to capture some space is moving the teacher's lounge out of the main office. And by doing that, we were able to get a right-sized assistant principal's office set up to be able to support students. Then also being able to have 2 flex offices for future growth for office support. Talked with Amber today. She was in great support of getting that conference room to the front of the office and then moving the principal's office to the back. Again, it's like walking you guys through my closet to see my house, and so you want to make sure that your guests are going to the conference room. The other part of this too, which I think is going to be a bonus for programming in the future, is I led a building that had 700 plus students, and there, when you get to that size, you will have multiple conferences happening at one time. And so there's additional space that we've captured in that existing square footage of the main office to have a smaller conference room so that you could have a speech conference happening in addition to another parent meeting that's happening in the larger conference room. Go to the next slide. This again just shows you the footprint of the new kitchen, and then also you can see the space captured from the old kitchen to allow seating, whether it is rectangular seating, mixed seating, or round seating. You were able to fit enough students to have multiple grade levels in there at one time. We can go to the next slide. We're going to talk about exterior.
So are they losing the windows on the right side of the building?
Good catch.
Who's doing that?
Good catch.
They are, but they're going to gain the windows that we're going to put back here on the side. On the north side.
Yeah, good catch.
And in talking with the principal, she was actually happy with that solution because she didn't necessarily like all the windows fronting that road. And so now we're going to have the windows fronting, their property going out to the north. Thank you for bringing that out.
So just a couple of quick illustrations. Perry Worth is interesting, slope grew up, a lot more moving parts, but really I feel like he put together a nice plan. And then the work we were doing architecturally and structurally and looking at it from a variety of different viewpoints, we think we can maintain the slope roofs, so you see the gray area versus the brown in the middle of that picture, left. So that gray area will just mimic what is there already, so the building most likely it's always going to be there as an addition. And then you can see the void, if you will, between the 2 additions. And you go to the next picture, you can see the So either with or without the long-term master plan view, it's purposeful, intentional, and attractive. Yet truly functional and it's warming.
Okay, moving on to the new elementary.
So, one of the things that Gibraltar, working with the administrative team, big picture, we can get into the devil details, but for big picture, this new elementary school site required some thinking about long-term views of the campus and the destiny of all the different buildings and traffic patterns and future roadways. So this starts to show a conversation of how 150 North, John Bart, may or may not extend through the property. However, that intersection would be the most appropriate location for the new elementary school to access John Bart Road. Creates more safety, creates better traffic patterns, and perhaps a little nudge to the city, maybe some sort of traffic control device to help with the congested times. And that also then starts a conversation with the city on shared issues. And then the other two locations are the asterisk red on Forest Road. So we like sites that have multiple access exit points. All the pieces, we go to the next slide, and so then look at how car riders manage the long drive, like we saw through separate zones for buses versus main entrance for car parking. Now it's forgotten on this, it's staff parking. And then see how we start to build it, what the site is. By the lower left, they mentioned which was already arranged with the city, how they would like to have more done because they have a graduate project. They are saying they're about 50% of engineering for graduate program interject and say, hey, this is what we want to do. So can you accommodate that? So this is one of the expansion dollars already spent on board extra and leveraged to help the school district get some bang for the buck.
As we zoom in on the floor plan, you guys know the programming at this point. How many kindergarten classrooms, how many first grade classrooms, and then 2 flex classrooms. All of that is very similar. All of those support spaces as well, from STEM to a gymnasium with a cafeteria. Where it is different would be that the 2 district special ed programming that you see in the middle, so to be able that is currently at Stokes being moved to the new elementary, would create a program there that would be well equipped to support students as that program may continue to grow. And then also, sorry, if you could go back, just you can kind of see where we have placeholders for future. If you were to need to expand, we also don't like to have, we want to have a solution for that as well. Yes, Ms. Jones?
Court.
Courtyard.
Okay.
A courtyard, just to make sure that those interior classrooms have the opportunity for some natural light.
Well, yeah, nice thing about this building is similar to your other schools, but intentional and purposely thought through here for the school where gym, stage, cafeteria all work together. Stage and built. You can see how even before and after school programs can happen, and you can apply classroom beside the building. Nice throughway commons. Thinking that in the center of town, this might be something to do on campus gatherings and events and have nice amenity in your school district for those types of issues.
Where we were pleased, though, is that all the solutions at all the other at this new school, we were able to apply to the other schools as well. This is again just a placeholder to show that seating capacity in the cafeteria.
There's one thing that the new school will have that they can brag about a little, though. They were able to put the stage in a position to open either to the gym or to the cafeteria. So that is a difference that one might say is a luxury, but when you're starting from scratch, you're able to do it. So
Each building does carry its own uniqueness. There is no covered wagon at this building. All right. Go to the next slide. We're going to go into Stokes. you know there's not a lot at Stokes as a site, but we do have the floor plan of what it would look like to apply. We knew that we were going to gain capacity at Stokes just by the subtraction of some programming that they currently have. And there's some district special ed programming that's housed there, and as we spread that out, that created some classroom capacity as well. Everything that you see in that yellow will be where we're capturing some space in the media center for the additional student support flex spaces. So those outside groups coming in that are supporting students would have designated space, and the office area wouldn't be impacted by that. They would have their own spaces. Taking the old tiered project room into a technology room into a STEM space that's going to be equitable to the other schools as well. And then you can see the small group instructional spaces along with OTPT, and all the other programming is able to be applied. Same with the amount of classes per grade level and that flexibility. Where you see the orange would be future capacity. If you were in a place that Stokes needed to grow, we have an idea of where that would happen, and it also wouldn't have an impact to seating capacity in the cafeteria and all the other spaces that are common areas for the building.
That is a slight difference. Want to be, bring that to the board's attention from the standpoint of capacity. We've spent a great deal of time talking about making sure that the elementary programming has the same level of programming for the students. Stokes' footprint actually would be slightly smaller than the other three in this current projects if these are future builds. And we had that conversation with Mrs. Solomon today, in that the commitment is to make sure that we have this media, STEM, student supports, small group instruction, and the aesthetics and refresh of the building, as we will do, as Mr. Dennis has pointed out, with or without the referendum bonds proceeds, depending on how all that plays out for us. But we will make that happen. The classroom additions is a bit more of a wait and see with Stokes. We've been open through the referendum campaign and conversations with the community about redrawing our attendance boundaries as part of this Vision 2025, and when we open the new elementary school and have these expansions take place. So we'll be very intentional about looking at that and hoping we hit the right target with future construction. But this is more of a wait and see as far as the classrooms go, but the functionality of Stokes will be on par with all of the other buildings. So it will be a slightly different footprint, size, and classroom number of classrooms. It's a start.
And if you go to the next two slides, they're just placeholders to show you cafeteria and how that would be able to handle increased enrollment in the future, and then how we were able to apply the same programming into the Stokes office as well. I think that's it. I know tonight was lengthy. I apologize, but a lot of information that we wanted to share with you to show you our progress. As Dr. Millman mentioned, we'll have a lengthier version of this for you to have the opportunity, if you want to go through even further detail, to see some of the items that we have worked through.
And will that include the middle school and high school, which I know will be much more minimal than all of this, but any?
That would be the next phase, which is not part of this particular project. Yeah, right. Yep. Down the road.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Very good.
Good evening. My name is Nick Gerenzo with Meyer & Agent Construction. Just want to quickly show you a tool that we've been using on your projects, just during pre-construction, but also during construction. One of the toughest parts of a renovation project is accurately identifying what's in your existing building, also what are the finishes, and how can we maybe reuse parts of that building in the future. We've created a walkthrough of your building, or to like Google Earth technology, where you can come in here, click on any of these orange pins, and drop down in and see any location throughout the schools. We've shared this with Gibraltar along with school staff during their planning. So as you get down in here, you can click around. Ignore the top of that thinning hair. And get an accurate representation of what is in the school as it sits today.
Was that Mr. Dennis?
That would be no hair.
No, that was me. Doppelganger. So we've gone through, done this on all the schools. Like I said, shared it to the design team. Here we've got the gym at Perry Worth. The mechanical room at Kearney. Here. Example of the work we've been doing. We also will continue this throughout construction to give you guys updates of how things are progressing, and then also provide as a record at the end of the project. One of our favorite uses of this is to take pictures right before drywall is installed, so you have an idea of what's inside all of the walls once we're done with construction.
Technology department is very appreciative of that. They're ready to cut a hole somewhere to hang a new monitor. They can go back to these pre-construction and during construction photos and know what's back there. We all wish we had that at our own home, I think.
Yeah. So just a quick update of what we've been working on. I'm excited to keep working on these projects with you. Any questions?
No, thank you. How efficient. I mean, that's really,
This is
Really
one of the
incredible.
things that, I really, drew me to Modern Age when they showed this, and then the BIM capabilities, which will be building on to that even, is that level of technology to have for here on out will be very big for the district.
Yeah. Thank you.
thank you. A lot
Mr.
of
Martin, I can
exciting-
go ahead and drive it from here since I'm
Some great information tonight. Thank you all very much for the presentation. Right. Operating referendum update.
all right. How did that Purdue tower get there?
Looks just great.
It does, doesn't it?
It,
All right. Well, I did want to take some time this evening as well. We've been equally busy working through our operating referendum planning. So I thought it would be good here near the end of the calendar year to give the board an update. We'll be sharing this information in a communication with staff as well this week, just to kind of give you a progress report on our operating referendum progress, as I said, planning, et cetera. School police funding will be shifted in January of 23 as we had planned. Our officers did receive a pay increase, as the board knows, through your approval earlier this calendar year. So we're pleased to be able to do that and pleased that our community supported that. So just wanted to publicly share that is part of that referendum budget, and when the operating referendum funding becomes part of that budget in 2023, then all of that will be shifted to the school police. Officer Smith continues to seek grant funding on top of that, and we're maximizing our ability to do that. We've just submitted it recently, as we look forward to receiving some funding to help us offset that cost as well moving forward. So we wanted to give you an update on some certified positions and some things that you'll start seeing and hearing about in the coming weeks and months. We actually are posting right now English and math positions at both the middle school and high school. We wanted to try to get ahead of the game and get ahead of the hiring season, and also be able to provide support, remediation support, intervention support for our students if we're successful in filing qualified applicants, such as early grads, December grads, for example. If we don't receive those applications, we won't fill those positions, but because of the referendum, we're able to post those positions, possibly bring them on board second semester, and then integrate them into our plan moving forward. So we have posted those positions currently. 2023-24, as a reminder, elementary STEM teachers will be posting those positions in December, and that'll give us an opportunity to receive applications from our current staff, consider current staff that may be interested in that. If we decide that those folks are a good fit for those positions, then we'll get an early start on that hiring process as well. So we're posting those prior to the end of the school year. 2 additional elementary literacy coach positions will be posted in December as well. So now each elementary will have a dedicated literacy coach to support the teaching and learning in the classrooms of the elementary. And then we'll be posting 2 elementary math coach positions. Think literacy coaches, and what we've explained to the board is their function, but for mathematics. And math will function the way our current literacy coaches do. So we'll have 2 coaches, and each coach will share 2 elementary schools. We're excited about that. We'll be posting an instrumental music position, as we shared again with the board, and that will be posted in March. And I know that the high school guidance departments, as well as the principals, are working on how that will fit now with our current instrumental staff, and who will be where, when during the school day, and how that will play into the support for our band program. On classified staff, Mr. Dennis this evening will be bringing some recommendations for increased compensation in transportation, custodial maintenance, buildings and grounds, our instructional assistants, clerical staff, and our administration center support staff. Reminder, I just put at the bottom, the food service is a self-funded program, although the board has supported that pay increase through the leadership of the CFO's office, making sure that we can afford that through their self-funded program. It is a bit different than the rest of those positions. Student support and teacher support, this is just a placeholder to share that as part of our planning process, we want to support our schools with an instructional assistant that can help our students who may be struggling throughout the day for whatever reason. There's several challenges that our students may have, and to be able to have a place where a student can go and reset and then re-enter the classroom during the school day with an instructional assistant that we will work on training with our administrative staff to help them again kind of de-escalate and self-regulate. The goal is always to have students re-enter the classroom as soon as possible, and you've seen in the design of our elementary schools a space that will be dedicated for that. Our principals have to be a little creative right now in finding and creating those spaces, but we are going to post those positions as soon as the job description is created officially by our administrative team, and we'd like to start that in January if we can. We had originally slated for the start of 2023, but through some conversations with Mr. Dennis and myself, we feel like we're in a position that we can offer those and open those mid-year if we're able to find qualified candidates. So those will start in January of 2023. Some future expenditures just to put on our radar. Certified compensation, certainly nothing that we can signal there because, as you know, that's through the collective bargaining process. The official collective bargaining starts after September 1 of 2023, but we have talked about that in our presentations, and we know that that is an area that we want to address to the degree we feel is possible and we can with use of referendum funds. We will be discussing the addition of a coordinator of exceptional learning to begin in the 2023-24 school year. This is a position that would help us with the delivery of instruction for our special education services, potential high ability, our English as new language students, just to help with the delivery of instruction and professional development and oversight of that program in our school district, and professional development, instructional supplies, and also utilizing some of the referendum funds to upgrade spaces such as STEM spaces at the middle school. Hutchison just mentioned middle school at the end of that the Gibraltar presentation. We've been discussing with the middle school some things that we can do to help their STEM spaces even prior to the major renovations that are coming down the road. That is really my main update tonight. I just wanted to, we haven't talked about the operating referendum for a while. We've been doing a lot of discussion about school design and site design, but I wanted to assure the board and the community that we are continuing to apply the referendum as promised, and so that's my update. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Nope.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update. It is important to keep that on the agenda. on a
Yes,
regular
and
basis.
Ms. Totterud will be updating our referendum webpage. We haven't touched it for a while because we didn't have the pretty pictures that we had until this evening. So both these updates will be on the referendum page for the community.
Great. Thank you. All right, next is a first reading on policy updates.
Yes, there's several policies for first reading, and if there are board questions, I'm happy to answer them. One is quite a lengthy little packet there. Neola had several options for us to consider, so you see a lot of red lines this evening. This is one that had not been updated, according to our records, since 91 or 92. That's been a while. And this had to do with student publications. And just to summarize, it's really a discussion about administrative oversight of the student publications, and a reminder that it's a class and we have young men and women in there, and that there's still leadership and oversight responsibility for the school, but also to honor their learning process as young budding journalists and their responsibility to do that responsibly. And our high school does a great job with that. So this policy, I believe, reflects both of those needs in choosing those options that were available to us. There's a lot there, and I haven't given you that explanation. So certainly between now and the next board meeting, if you have specific questions, I encourage you to dig into that one a little bit and ask some questions about that. It is a bit of a different policy than would have come maybe just statutory updates and things of that nature. So this one really is a function of administrative policy and what you're asking our principals to do. So again, I'm happy to answer those questions, and I know you may not have those this evening on that. The rest of the policy updates are from the financial side of the policy manual, as well as technology, and those are really, again, in our normal course of action, updates with new regulations, as well as our current practice.
Okay, thank you. Board, does anyone have any questions at this time on those? Okay, so.
It's a lot. Let me know if you do.
It is, but I think, like you were saying, that first one is a bit unique. So
It's a bit unique, yes.
These will be back on our next meeting agenda to vote on those.
Little has changed since 1991. A little bit.
There's a little bit.
Technology-wise and
A little bit has changed.
media-wise.
Probably was a little past due.
Yes.
So thank you. for
You're,
going through that.
yes, you're welcome. It took me a little while to go through that one.
It's very colorful.
Yes.
I came into the world.
Don't.
Kind of big.
A few things have happened.
Oh, wow.
Oh my. We still have a little ways to go here, guys. Got a long one tonight. Okay, thank you. D is school board member appointment update. So as a board, we have found ourselves in a rather unique situation. My term on the board is ending at the end of this school year, or not school year, calendar year, December. So I elected not to run again, which I had never intended to, but no one filed for the seat. So like I say, this is a unique situation, one that we don't think has ever happened here before. So we have been consulting with our board attorney, Mr. Franson, and also the clerk's office in how we handle this and how we move forward. So part of that process is that I'm actually, by state law, allowed to stay in the seat until someone else is elected. But I have notified the clerk of my intention to leave at the end of the year. So these 4 capable people are charged with finding a replacement. And since I will not be part of that process, I've asked Mr. Parks as Vice President to take over that process. So he will take it from here.
Well, first off, I'd just say thank you for your service to this school corporation. Your leadership, at least as I've jumped on the board over the past couple of years, has been great to be able to lean on your leadership, your knowledge, and thank you for all you've done for this corporation. But we have discussed as a board and with working with Mr. Franzen too, trying to figure out what do we have to do. We want to be as transparent on this process as we can and how to do it. We want to make it available for anybody who is eligible to fill that role. So what we've discussed is to have an open forum or an open for the next 2 weeks, open it up to the public for any interested parties who that live in Worth Township and meet all the requirements of that seat, being a resident of Worth Township to represent the Worth Township seat. But then submit a letter of interest to us with information about themselves. So what we thought is keep it open till Tuesday the 29th. That gives 2 weeks, gives us through the holidays for anybody who is interested. And then for them to send me directly through my school email address, which would be parksc@leb.k12.in.us, your interest in this and about yourselves. The reason for the 2 weeks is we are hoping to be able to fill this position by the end of, or as Ms. Keith steps off, to be able to have no gap if possible. So our next meeting is actually December 13th. So if anybody that comes forward that is interested, next 2 weeks, that gives us then as a board the ability to meet, to publish if needed, to have actually open interviews. I know we don't have to according to our council, but if we decide it is necessary, then that gives us time to advertise as necessary, to then still hopefully be able to make a decision at the December 13th meeting for that any individual that may be willing to do it, and have a vote amongst us who would be the best suited individual to fill your seat. So again, those dates would be Tuesday the 29th. Between now and then, would request letters of interest, providing information about yourselves. Then also, we would ask that those individuals check with the clerk's office and verify you meet the requirements of that seat, just so that then that's vetted out before we even receive the letter. And then hopefully by December 13th, be able to have that done. So, any questions? Any comments from anybody else?
I'd just comment on kind of what you said earlier. Thank you, Liz. You've been awesome. Tremendous role model for somebody who's only been on the board for 2 years. We're really appreciative of you and everything that you've done for our community, so thank you.
Large shoes to fill.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. I would just add any questions on that process. I know people do listen to the meetings, maybe you're watching online. Those really should be directed to Mr.
To me,
Parks.
yes.
Not to me or not to the admin office, but to him.
And our information, all of our information is available on
Is
the
on the
website as
school
well,
website.
with that email address. But again, it's just parksc@leb.k12.in.us. Submit that to me directly, and I will forward it on to the rest of the school board members here, as then we will review deliberate and then decide whether we need to do interviews. It gives us time to do that, and again, in a public forum. But hopefully December 13th we'll be able to fill that role. Cross our fingers, right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you in advance. All right. Item 7, consent agenda for staff matters.
Thank you, Ms. Keith. This evening, for staff matters, we are bringing 3 food service positions, 1 custodian, 1 bus aide, bus transportation instructional assistant, 2 bus driver positions, 1 transportation mechanic position, 1 United Methodist Children's Home instructional assistant, and 1 substitute teaching position, and as well a title change for Ms. Michelle West at Buildings and Grounds Office to a manager title, which is a title-only change, not a compensation change, so that will not be part of, she will be part of the classified recommendations of Mr. Dennis coming forward, but it's a title change more in line with her duties, not a wage change. So I have her classified this evening. For our certified staff this evening, we have a medical leave for your consideration, a maternity leave. Mackenzie LeCrone is recommending Jake Hester to fill the Central Elementary Physical Education position. Kelly Salmon is recommending Noelle Skinner for a special education teaching position that will begin second semester. Madeline Sandberg is recommending Amanda Huffer for the Joint Services Educational Consultant position. This is a consultant position. It is a joint services position. Reminder, we're the ECA for joint services, so we handle the financial matters for them. This consultant is actually for some Clinton County schools. I'll be serving it, but again, it's our board's responsibility to approve them as employees of joint services. Mr. Dunshee is recommending Catherine Patterson Bailey Burcham for the LMS academic team sponsor positions. Under extracurricular this evening, Ms. Scoble and Mr. Levine are recommending their swim coaches for this season. And that's all I have for staff matters this evening.
Okay. Thank you. Board, I would like a motion to approve.
I need to make a
I
note.
was gonna let you.
I am going to abstain from this vote because Noelle Skinner happens to be my daughter, so I will be abstaining from this vote for that very reason.
Thank you for speaking up on that. So the minutes could note that, please. Thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve classified, certified, and ECA staff matters. Second? Any questions or comments on that?
Dr. Milliman, with the sad passing of the food services director, where are we in that process? Are either of these 2 positions fulfilling that, or?
No, these are, those are not administrative positions. We have a contract with Airmark to provide administration services of our food service department. Currently, Natalie, last name please? Turner, thank you. Sorry, been a long night. As a regional director for Airmark, has been working alongside Mr. Martin, who is really functioning as our food service director in the absence of the director right now. As you recall, Mr. Martin was all things COVID for quite some time, and now he's all things food service. And I think the time commitment is very similar. And so I'd like to thank him for that. So thank you for your question. And he is working diligently with Airmark to find that next replacement. So thank you for that question.
Any further questions? All right. Okay, we already have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, consent consent agenda for business matters. Mr. Dennis.
Thank you, Mrs. Keith. Board, included in your board packet this evening is our monthly pie charts and line graphs, bar graphs. I think some notable differences in October of 22 compared to October of 21. October of 21 was a 3-pay month, hence it's very odd, of course, to see salaries and wages higher in previous October than this October, but again, 3-pay month, October 21. Our 3-pay month this year was September. So that's why that's a little out of whack, I guess, would be the way to say it, or one way to say it. The other one is a large discrepancy in the professional and technical services. Dr. Millen brought up joint services and the fact that we are the LEA and the fiduciary for joint services. Those 6 member schools all pay fees, dues, and that is where the revenue for the position that Dr. Milliman described, comes from. And our dues this year were paid in October. In 21, our dues were paid in September. Those are done on a quarterly basis, and the quarter 2 payment this year was October. It just fell in September last year, and so that is the discrepancy in the 300s. And then in the 600s, as Mr. Parks has suggested in the past, again, a good chunk of that is due to fuel differences this year compared to last year. And then another, in fact, the largest difference is our Microsoft renewal came out in October of 22. In 2021, that happened to come out in August. So a little bit, it was surprising to me to learn that they, maybe September, maybe November, but it was August of last year. So I had to hunt that down a little bit to figure that out. But that is that's the reason for the gap in our 600s there. So any questions on that financial update? Otherwise, I will report the claims.
No questions.
All right, then if that's the case, I would request approval of claims on the November docket. That would be check number 56605 through 56772 in the amount of $2,689,443.10. That combined with our 2 payrolls totaling $2,011,212.38 for a grand total for November of $4,700,655.48. Should approval of those claims, please.
Okay, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda for business matters, the claims for payment 56605 through 56772, and payrolls for October 28th, 2022, and November 10th, 2022.
I'll second.
Is that you, Lisa? Or is that it?
Tiffany.
Okay, thanks. Any questions on that? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Comments from the public? There is no one signed up. So we will move on to our action items. Seems like we've been taking action. But we're going to keep going. Okay, Mr. Dennis, request approval of farm rental agreement.
So we do have 2 60-acre plots of tillable acreage, one at the north of the middle school and one to the south of the middle school. And traditionally, we've been cash renting those 2 plots out. This year, going to take one of those offline. As we saw earlier tonight, a new elementary school will be constructed there, and albeit not for the entire 60 acres, it just doesn't make sense to try to guess where we'll be intruding on that with machinery and whatnot, and it just doesn't make sense to rent any portion of that plot out any longer to the south. However, to the north, there is still no real plan for that particular bit of 60 tillable acres, and so we have historically been cash renting that to the Will Hoyt Grain Company. And in front of you tonight is the cash rental agreement for the 2023 crop year for the north plot of 60 acres, if you will, of tillable acreage to the Will Hoyt Grain Company. Appreciate approval of that farm rental agreement.
Okay, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the farm rental agreement with Will Hoyt Grain.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Any questions on that?
Your neighbors are rough. Right.
All those in favor, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Dennis, again, approval of wages for non-certified staff.
So as a reminder, our classified staff wage increases don't coincide with when our certified staff wage increases occur. And so our classified staff always are concurrent with the beginning of a new calendar year, so January 1st. And I am very pleased to bring to you tonight raises that reflect us getting on level with I think our neighbors. I want to thank the chief business officials of Region 8 of IASBO because they put together a study where the member schools of Region 8, which includes Marion County and the Donut Counties, compiled together our wages for all of our different classified positions so that we all could be aware of what various school corporations and how they were compensating these employees. And that's not something that they had to do. In fact, that's been guarded information historically as people have wanted to protect, how they compensate individuals. But with the stresses and just constraints that COVID has brought to the labor market, these business officials have gotten together and said, listen, while this has been confidential, may be a strong word, as nothing's confidential in schools, of course, but guarded in the past, let's just share with one another to make it easy. How are we compensating, our food service individuals, our IAs? And as a result of that, I was able to learn that we had some ground to make up here. And as Dr. Millman shared earlier with the operating referendum, we're in a position now where we can compensate our classified staff so that we are on par with the other members of Marion County and the Donut Counties surrounding Marion County. And again, this is one of the things that I'm very proud and happy to bring to the board is it's a very deserving set of staff members. We know how important it is to get our students to school, to make sure that our buildings are clean and presentable, to make sure that we have instructional support staff so that our students can receive support that they need. It's a very important set of staff, and I am very proud to first of all bring this to you tonight, and more than happy to answer any questions that you have regarding these raises.
Thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the wages for non-certified staff, please.
I'll make that motion.
Second? Questions or comments on that?
I think it's really great that we're able to do that. I mean, it's so hard to find people, so being able to be competitive, I think is really important.
It's easy to thank us, but it's really thanks to the public for
Yes.
for passing the referendum, allowing us giving us the flexibility to do this.
Absolutely.
And they're very crucial staff people.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We have to get the kids to school, we have to keep the buildings clean, and
Feed them.
Feed them.
all the people who answer the phone every time you call and everything like that. So they're very much appreciated, so I'm glad we can do that. Thank you. And thanks for your research on that as well. I'm sure that took a bit to gather all that information, so thank you. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, approval of FFA donation from Jackson Farms. Dr. Millman.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Keith. We are very grateful to Jackson Farms for their donation of the proceeds from the crops that are planted on our 15 acres on Elm Swamp Road. They have generously wished to donate that to our FFA program, and so I give them our thanks and ask for your approval of that donation this evening.
Okay, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the FFA donation from Jackson Farms.
It's a
Second.
tie.
Any questions or comments on that? Just echo our thanks as well for their generosity. I know the FFA makes good use of their funds with trips and competitions and things, so I know it will be put to good use. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, Dr. Milliman, approval of supplemental payment for certified staff.
Yes, thank you, Mrs. Keith. Recently, a law went into place in Indiana Code revising Code 2028-9 -1.5, which allows districts to provide supplemental payment to any teacher after required discussion with the exclusive representative. We have discussed this supplemental payment with our exclusive representative. We wish to ask the board this evening to approve this supplemental payment for all members of collective bargaining unit of $750. Traditionally, our stipend, which may be in the master teacher contract, is provided in a payment in December, and that is still going to be honored. We will still honor that part of the collective bargaining agreement, as well as the teacher appreciation grant, which is a state amount of funds that's given to all public schools for teachers receiving an effective or highly effective rating. That will also continue to be processed to our staff. As you know, our education fund is funded through our daily membership or the enrollment of our students here at school, and we did see an increase in enrollment this year. However, we did hire several new additional staff to support those students. However, we felt that we were in a financial position to be able to bring this consideration to you this evening. So in December, I believe it's December, what is it, 16th, Friday the 16th, our teachers will receive their $250 stipend, which is part of their current master contract. The amount that's given to us from the state, I think we're still awaiting those amounts. They should come in any day now, and we'll process those. And then there'll be a third payment, which would be this $750 supplemental pay. The law is not new. However, it was narrowed to a specific group of teachers that would have been eligible for this, primarily STEM teachers at the secondary level, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and elementary teachers who might have been seeking a master's degree in reading or mathematics. But beginning in July of this year, this law is expanded to allow boards to consider a supplemental payment for any teacher. And so this is the code under which I'm making this request this evening.
Okay, thank you. Board, I'd like a motion to approve supplemental payment for certified staff as described by Dr. Milliman.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
Any questions on that?
It's good timing with the holidays coming.
It is good timing.
It's a great time to get it. Sure is. Nice boost. All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. E, request approval of joint services agreement. Dr. Miller.
Yes, I bring to the board's approval this evening our membership in the Boone, Clinton, Northwest Hendricks Joint Services for the 22-23 school year.
Warren, I would like the motion to approve the joint services agreement. You have that entire agreement in your background notes for your review. So as submitted. Second?
I'll second.
Questions or comments on that? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Martin, you have the next two items for field trips.
Or a Camp Tecumseh 5th grade trip, March 9 and 10 of 2023.
Okay. All right, Board, I would would like a motion to approve the Hattie B. Stokes overnight trip to Camp Tecumseh, March 9th through 10th.
All motion.
Okay. Second? Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. O'Rourke has brought, sorry, if I may go. I'm sorry, I got ahead of you. Mr. O'Rourke has asked for an early approval for the 2024 June trip to France and Spain. This allows them to fundraise ahead of time, as you know.
Okay. All of the details of that, which there are quite a few, are included in your background notes. A trip that has been taken every other summer, correct? Besides some COVID interruption. Board, I'd like a motion to approve the Spain and France trip for June of 2024. Second?
Second.
Questions or comments on that?
I was going to say, does this come with a perk for the board, perhaps?
Maybe. Ask the right people.
Maybe. You can fundraise too, right?
Hey, fundraise too.
Great opportunity.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right. Our next board meeting, as we have discussed earlier, is actually December 13th next month, which is the second Tuesday instead of the third, because of our winter break that starts on the 16th. So, anything further? No.